Welcome to Red Stars Report, a podcast dedicated to. Wow, I can't believe I screwed that up. Leave it in. Welcome to Red Stars Report, a podcast dedicated to bringing the latest news and commentary on the NWSL Chicago Red Stars. I'm your host, LT.
And I'm Grant, and I'm your co-host.
So, Grant, we've been waiting to see what would happen with this club and what they would do with the latest league-mandated roster cut. And on the day of the deadline, the club had 38 players on the roster, and it was cut down to 31 instead of 32. So 7 players gone. The 7 players cut from the roster included 5 non-roster invitees, which was kind of expected. Those players were Amber Brooks, Jenny Danielson, Mia Fontana, Bridget Rieken, and Paige Weber. 3 NRIs made the cut. Those players were Allie Cook, Nadia Gomes, and Erin McKinney. Usually, I expect at most 1 NRI kind of makes the roster each season. So these cuts don't surprise me that so many of the cuts were NRIs. The 3 NRIs that were kind of left on the roster were ones that I kind of expected to make it, make like that last push for a spot. So that's kind of nice to see.
I mean, I am surprised about, having 4 GK still, but I mean, it is the international break right now. So
I'm assuming they're kind of keeping her around to fill that spot for international breaks, like when Alyssa's gone, when Sydney Schneider is gone, when they're gone on international, like maybe Erin will be the one that they bring back on those international replacement contracts. So they're just kind of keeping her around in camp to kind of just, keep her close to the club. So that's kind of what I was thinking.
yeah, but besides that, I mean, I honestly didn't think that Amber Brooks was going to be there just because of how the draft went and the signings that we had in the off season feels essentially complete now. So
Yeah. Now the roster cut did include 2 players who were under contract with the club. Those players were Addie McCain and Amanda Fick, formerly Kowalski. Addie McCain joined the club last season to help a very heavily depleted midfield after free agency. The club signed her off of waivers, but she was injured early on, never really found a spot in the rotation even when she was healthy, and only got 2 starts last season.
yeah, I'm personally heartbroken about Amanda. I had interviewed her on my podcast, and she's just a great person. And I hope that whether it's soccer related or not, that she finds something in her career soon. But that it hurts, but it's gonna happen again, probably with the other roster cuts coming soon. So don't get too attached right now.
Yeah, the name that I was surprised by was Amanda's, Goose, as she's known around the community. She came to the club in 2022 as an NRI, and like, we love NRIs around here. They're like, there's always one that everyone kind of gets really attached to, and she was that one in 2022. She played a pivotal role in that defensive line that was kind of cobbled together after Casey Kruger's pregnancy and Tierna Davidson and Kayla Sharples were injured. She scored four goals across all competitions that year, played 17 of the matches, started 12 of them. Minutes were just chopped in 2023 after Casey and Tierna and Kayla came back. So didn't expect to see her on the pitch a lot. I thought I did expect to see her on the pitch more than she was, though. So it was just a little surprising. She was even a healthy scratch a lot of times. But so watching that kind of, was hard, especially being like a fan favorite. Um, I thought maybe a new coach would see what she could bring to the club, especially like if they could see 2022 version of her, because that defense was pretty good for a defense that was kind of cobbled together. But I guess they didn't see that in her, or at least see her as a fit for the club. Um, a local kid, a great person to speak with. Like you said, you interviewed her. It's a great interview. Um, and just an awesome family too. Um, I'll miss Goose on this club, but we kind of move forward, and I hope this wasn't the last time that we see her play football, because that's always the thing that I think about the most, when it comes to players leaving a club, or player coming back from injury, or getting late into their career, and not being able to make a team. I hope they always just find some place to play football, and I hope we can watch it, because I just want these players to continue their careers.
Yeah, hopefully it's not for a rival though. That would
Yeah,
that would hurt even more.
yeah, that's kind of the way of the world right now for us, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
In this club, but the final roster cut, we'll see it go down from 31 players to 26 players on March 13th. Still have 3 open roster spots with 8 unsigned players in camp now. Barring any more cuts, like, who do you think kind of takes those 3 spots? Do you have any ideas?
I'm on the Hannah Anderson hype train. I think Nesbeth is a lock
Lock.
as well. Um, and then it comes down to, I guess, do we need Allie Cook? I think is the question, and we'll
Yeah,
see if that's answered.
I don't know about the forwards that are in camp right now, because we have so many midfielders that play forward as well. I don't know what that forward group is going to look like. I think currently it's at like 5 or 6 players. So maybe one could be added, but if not, they have plenty of players that can play there. And like I just mentioned, like there may be 3 open roster spots, but there could be more being opened in this next cut. So we'll kind of see what happens with that on March 13th.
Lucky number 13.
Mm, 3 days before opening day too. So that'll be
Right.
very interesting to watch. Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Now we can just move on to players who are rostered but are currently not with the team. An update on the Gold Cup, where 4 Chicago Red Stars players have been playing in the international tournament. I was just a naive man in the last episode that I recorded, thinking that the US would pull off a win against Mexico, but I was dead wrong. I was dead wrong. Um,
Bad. Just so bad.
the US and Alyssa Nair advanced to the next round regardless of that outcome, and are currently playing Colombia in the quarterfinals as we record this. So, yeah, I have the game going over there. We'll see how that goes. I'm not overly confident. I like the lineup though, so hopefully, and they just scored. Okay, all right,
Who?
we're up. Lindsey Horan on a PK,
Oh,
so we're up.
PK. Okay.
Still 1-0, Grant. Still 1-0.
Okay.
The other, but in this, oh, what we should mention, what we were talking about earlier when we were before we hit record, was that this is Alyssa Nair's 100th cap with the national team. She got her first cap back in 2014, and finally kind of became the number one in I was around 2016 once those Olympics started, and hasn't looked back really. She had 1 year of injury, but I truly believe that she'll continue to be this number one and keeper on this team until she retires.
And I agree with that, especially with the Olympics coming up this summer. That's gonna be really important, revenge tour for the US.
Yeah,
But 100 caps is incredible, and hopefully she'll have a good run of form within these next few months, and I think we should wish for 50 more at least.
yeah,
50 more caps, please.
yeah. I think a lot of what happens in Chicago will dictate um, her play on the national team. National team. So hopefully, whatever Chicago can kind of bring out to the field highlights what a listener does best, and hopefully that translates to a continued international career that has just been, amazing for her. Like obviously she was on the 2015 roster but didn't see any minutes in that World Cup. But once she became the starter on the team, the number one, uh, had a hell of a tournament in 2019, uh, and raised that World Cup trophy. And I think was one of the main reasons that they won that tournament. And hopefully she's the main reason that they win the next one, this one or the Olympics, or hopefully she's even around in the next World Cup.
I feel like that's a little bit of wishful thinking, but
At least
it's okay.
hopefully she'll be on the roster or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just never want to watch her stop playing.
exactly. 'Cause she's that good.
Yeah.
Just get her the what is the youth fountain? I forgot. The whole story
Fountain of
behind that,
Youth.
but whatever. Yeah, that thing. Again, like I told you before we started, I am so tired.
Yeah.
But it's
Someone
okay.
someone had mentioned in the community earlier this week how she's only at 100 caps when a player like Hope Solo was in like the 200s. It was because Alyssa didn't really become the number one until she was in her 30s.
Yeah.
So it's not like she has not been the number one for very long, or at least as long as your typical like um, homegrown goalkeeper is, where you start getting them a bunch of minutes when they're in their mid 20s and start getting a bunch of caps. So that's why she's only at 100 now, but 100 is nothing to to look past. It's incredible that she's made it this far, and we're really proud of her, especially everyone in Chicago.
Hopefully they got a banner or something for her in the opening game at SeatGeek. That'd be nice to see.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. So another player that we can be really proud of in Chicago is Sam Fisher and El Salvador. They didn't make it through to the knockout stage in the Gold Cup, but Sam did get her first international goal, which was so awesome to see. She was taking a PK. PK got blocked. She got the rebound. First international goal, not a PK, actual goal. Uh, and then she really does seem to be a mainstay in El Salvador. Um, so that's cool to see her keep playing moving forward.
Yeah, I was reading the Joe Chats article, written about how her and her mom went down for the first camp and how a bunch of her family was really excited to see her play. And that's just so cool to me to have those kinds of stories. And then to score that goal in the tournament, just that I feel like that's such a full circle moment for her, and it's not going to be the last that we see of her in that uniform.
Yeah.
And hopefully El Salvador can just keep going to, hopefully reach like the World Cup one day.
Yeah, that would be really awesome to see such a a growing team kind of fight for these bigger tournaments, and they played well in the Gold Cup, and especially when they were trying to qualify for the Gold Cup, making it in those preliminary rounds. So we're really proud of Sam. We're proud of El Salvador and what they did in the knockout rounds, the or in the group stage. But on the other side, Jill Aguilera and Puerto Rico, they also didn't make it out of the group stage of the tournament, this time by some really interesting circumstances. At the end of the round, they were tied in all of the tiebreakers with Costa Rica. And so CONCACAF had what is called the drawing of the lots, and they just put both countries' names into plastic balls and shuffled them around, pulled a name out, and that was the team that moved on to the knockout rounds. And Costa Rica's name was the one that was pulled, and I was not pleased, to say the
Ugh.
least. Um, but I'm really proud of Jill and everything that she's accomplished in her international career so far. Just not even in this tournament, but everything that she's done for the last couple of years for Puerto Rico, another team that really does seem to be growing and getting a lot of attention and a lot of fans around the world. And we're kind of hoping to kind of play upset in this tournament and be those underdogs and make it to the knockouts and see how far they could go. But it didn't happen, which was unfortunate. But Puerto Rico making the run that they did was really impressive, and I cannot wait to watch more of them in the future.
Yeah, Puerto Rico not making it was just that to watch it all unfold on Twitter was something. I can't remember. This was Thursday, right?
Mhm.
So I was sitting on the bus ride to St. Louis for work, and I was like scrolling through Twitter and I see this tweet from Theo Lloyd Hughes, and I'm like, they're really gonna draw a name.
Yeah,
That's what they're gonna do. That's just crazy to me that that's what it had to come down to at that point. I think Puerto Rico was robbed.
I agree.
And you know what? I'll even put it out there that Puerto Rico would have kicked Canada's ass too. I'll put it out there.
I
But
I I really wanted to see it. I really, really, really did. Um, they have been such a fun team to watch, especially their goalkeeper, and just the way that entire circumstance, like that whole thing scenario played out, was just back and forth and back and forth. Like we just like watch because their fate was kind of dictated by that El Salvador game, and it was just goals after goals both ways, and it was just it was so heartbreaking to watch their name not get drawn in such a silly way, whatever that was.
yeah, Puerto Rico's gonna be on a revenge tour. Um, keep an eye out for them for sure.
Mm, yeah, absolutely. Nice Wonger just scored, I think. So 2-0
And
US.
we were worried.
This is
I
gonna
mean, I
be
understand. I understand. But
I was less worried when I saw that lineup. So yeah.
okay.
Anyway, this is gonna be so dated on Tuesday, and it's gonna be great.
But you know what? The updates are good for us
Yeah, they
because
are
it
good
could
for
be
us.
like, watch, it goes from
So
2-0 to 2-2, and we can be like fuming in like 15 minutes or something. Just like a comedic effect to
I hope
the show.
them just winning now makes everything that we talk about going forward a lot more positive.
But you know what they say about 2-0 leads in soccer? That's literally the worst lead that you can have. And I've seen the Chicago Fire blow 2-0 leads all the time. So
Yeah, it happens. Get
a
too
lot.
comfortable. I don't know. We'll find out how it plays out. It's not gonna end by the time we're done recording this, so we're gonna look like fools.
Tune in next week to see how we really feel.
They'll play another match or two before then. So another team that was in the tournament, or is in the tournament currently, is Brazil, and Julia Bianchi. They seemed like kind of the team to beat in this tournament. They're having a hell of a last couple games. They've been playing really well as of late, even with Julia Bianchi seeing sporadic starts and very little minutes off the bench. Um, they won, simple as that. Moved on to play the Mexico, who just beat Paraguay uh, this tonight. So Brazil, Mexico, that'll be fun. Hopefully Julia sees another start. I'm not. There wasn't a whole lot of their usual starters that started that last match, so I've been really enjoying seeing her play again. She's one of my favorite players on the Red Stars. So as much soccer as I can watch her play, the happier that I am.
Yeah, hopefully she gets the start against Mexico. I also think it's really interesting how Brazil's performance now compared to like the World Cup has been so much better.
Yeah,
Like, and I think it's probably because of the coaching change. I think that's probably um the biggest difference here. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like Mexico is just trying to what's the wording I'm looking for? I'm at a loss of words for today's episode. They're Mexico is on a revenge tour. I'm just gonna repeat myself the whole time
okay,
with the same words.
same words. That's how
They heard
podcasts
your
go, right?
criticism and they said, you know what? We're gonna win this tournament.
Yeah,
And I feel like that's what they're doing right now.
they have really kind of flipped the the narrative, which is
Yeah.
cool. It was, as much as I enjoy watching the U.S. win, it was quite thrilling to watch Mexico kind of, do that for their confidence. Um, Listening to the Mexican commentators call those goals was really, really, really cool. Um, so hopefully they um, can continue that in the future, because they're a squad, like I said, that has completely flipped the narrative of the last time that they were in a qualifying for a tournament, and hopefully they just don't do it against Brazil, because because I don't want that to happen. I want to see Julia play more and more.
Julia score a hat trick, silence Mexico, and just leave it at that.
Or score an Olympico, because that's
Or
what
that
is
too.
ever etched in my brain when I think of her. um, so moving away from the Gold Cup, but kind of staying internationally, Natalia Kuika was also playing in an international tournament during this break. Her and Finland were favorites to win the Pinatar Cup, and did just that against Scotland in the finals last week. The match went to penalties, with Natalia Kuika taking and making the first attempt, and Finland would go on to raise the trophy. So cool things are happening on the other side of the world for Red Stars.
Kind of hurts my heart because I am part Scottish. Um,
Oh man, I didn't know
yeah,
that.
just it's okay.
But
You
we're
can
Kuika
have this one.
fans. But we're Kuika
Yeah,
fans.
I know, I know. Heritage or Cuica, it's like, which one are you gonna pick?
Heritage, my life and my family,
Yeah.
or a Chicago Red Star. Well, the balance.
I'm also an Aaron Cuthbert stan, so
Mm,
that also goes
okay.
along with it. But no, it's cool to see you know our players winning tournaments with their national teams. Um, I would like to say, make some room in that trophy cabinet for maybe this year.
You just love these these predictions, these hot takes.
I'm gonna seem insane when we do like end of season recap, and there's just gonna be all these clips of me saying like, "Oh, playoffs, oh, championship, oh, whatever," and it's like, no.
Nesmith will win our rookie of the year. Mal's gonna win MVP.
Well,
Sam Staub will win defensive player of the year.
Mel probably will be MVP.
Let's
Let's be for real.
maybe I will we'll find out. That'd be awesome. But yeah, let's just say all the great things now, and then we'll look great at the end of the season when they all happen.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Red Stars, again, just back to locally, we've talked a lot before, both on this podcast and across all of our platforms, about SeatGeek Stadium and its location, the transportation options, getting to it from it, and having to share it with the fire sometimes, all of that. So, an interesting report came out from both Cranes and the Chicago Tribune regarding the potential for a future stadium for the Red Stars. And according to the Tribune, they said, quote, the Chicago Red Stars are in the fact-finding phase of selecting a potential stadium site within the city and have not determined the level of funding that would be needed. Ideally, the club would find a location in Chicago that fits both a stadium and a training facility. Those plans do not include moving in at Guaranteed Rate Field, the current home of the Chicago White Sox. Thank God. I don't I don't like that. The It was interesting. They said a source told the Chicago Tribune that the Red Stars, however, have not been contacted by anyone from the White Sox or related Midwest about the site. And even if they'd had, the Chicago Red Stars are not interested in repurposing a stadium that a Major League Baseball team has deemed unviable. So let's stop that talk about moving to Guaranteed Rate Field. A
Yeah.
dumb name for a stadium.
Mhm.
But what do you think about that? That the leaders of this club are kind of looking for a potential place to move outside of SeatGeek.
Yeah, I think there's so much stadium talk going on with a lot of the teams, um, in the city, with the Bears and the Sox, and for another one to be added in is really interesting timing, I guess, for all these to be happening at once. Um, it would be amazing for the Red Stars to be in the city, especially with a lot of people that live in the city saying how hard it is to get to SeatGeek, being no public transportation gets you to Bridgeview. I know for me, it would make things a lot harder for me to go to a game, but I think the Red Stars target market isn't the suburbs. I think it's people in the city. So as a financial decision, I think it would make so much more sense for them to be downtown compared to freaking Bridgeview of all places. Um, with that being said, like in terms of funding, I'm not a fan personally of making taxpayers pay for a stadium, which is I know Laura Ricketts said, well, if these teams are getting funding, then we should be getting funding. I think nobody should be getting funding. All these people that own these teams, especially it being the Bears, the White Sox, and Laura Ricketts with the Red Stars now, you are all filthy rich. Pay for your own damn stadium. Like, they did it with Wrigley Field, the Ricketts family. You are a part of the Ricketts family. You have that money. You pay for the stadium. Don't make me pay for the stadium. As much as I love the Red Stars, like my tax money is not going towards that. I'm sorry, but just keep it away from the people that live in the state. Do it yourself. But that's how I feel on that.
Yeah. The I completely agree with you, first off. like I taxpayer stadiums, no. Let's let's
Yeah.
not do that. But this does come after the club's president, Karen Lietzau, made it clear that if any Chicago professional sports teams are seeking public funding for a new stadium, the Red Stars should be included in that. She said, quote, women's sports need to have a seat at the table. We need to be in the mix because otherwise we're just going to end up chasing our tail around how to grow women's sports. She also said, quote, if you're a politician, what better way to leave a lasting legacy in the state of Illinois or the city of Chicago than to do something that's never been done, which is provide meaningful funding for women? It is um, an interesting statement. I completely understand the sentiment, the fact of basically saying, if you're gonna if you're gonna cater to men's sports teams, like why not also include the women in that? So I understand the sentiment, but like what Pritzker said in this article, he does not seem too keen on giving any taxpayer dollars to build a stadium for any team in the city. Um, but I did really like the last thing that Karen Lietzau said, which was, quote, "We are the Chicago Red Stars. We tie ourselves to Chicago as much as we can. That's where our fans are coming from, but we need a stadium in the city, and that's our goal." End quote. So I agree. That should be your goal, but it should not be at the cost of the taxpayers. Um, I don't like the idea of taxing people to build a stadium, especially in Cook County, where taxes are already wildly, you know, expensive, and just Illinois overall. Um, so I don't think that should happen. I like the fact that they are um, kind of pushing their way into those conversations, but they should look to doing it on their own.
Yeah. I mean, looking with what's happening in Kansas City right now with the Chiefs and how the public's gonna vote on that. I mean, it's just like all these things with stadium funding and all these professional teams, and they're all rich. Like you wouldn't own a team if you didn't have money. So it's like, and I'm talking about like major league teams or professional teams. I'm not talking about like fan owned clubs like Minnesota
Right.
Aurora or whatever. I'm talking
Right.
about, Laura Ricketts, part of the Ricketts family. They're loaded, whatever. Um, I feel like Lisa has to say that because it's her job, not like it's her being like sincere, like, oh, like we should be in the conversation, women's sports, whatever. I feel like that's kind of, I don't know. I don't really like that comment because it's like, I don't know, you're asking for your fans to pay for your stadium, and
Yeah.
that's just not cool. So, as much as it's like, oh, we should be in the conversation, it's like, how about instead of trying to make your fans pay for the stadium, you find outside funding or the Ricketts do whatever, but don't leave it up to the people that live in the state and already pay to come to your games and buy the merch and have the season ticket packages. Like, let's just keep it to buying that stuff and not a freaking 20,000 seat stadium somewhere in the city of Chicago.
Right. Plus the people who don't go to your games and don't
Yeah.
know your club and don't like soccer, like why make them pay too? Like it I don't know. Public funding for stadiums has never made much sense to me. Um, but we'll we'll, we'll find out what they do. I'm confident that the state of Illinois isn't going to do anything for any of these teams. Um, but hopefully, maybe through just certain conversations that they have during this process will lead to finding certain locations or finding other ways to fund it, just by kind of getting the ball rolling. But hopefully this kind of doesn't go anywhere but in a different direction. But ultimately ending in a stadium for the Red Stars that is a women's soccer stadium, and they don't have to share it with a rugby team and a other soccer team. And hopefully it kind of gets there. And the training facilities, like I think that really right now should be like the main goal of this club when it comes to what they're going to fund uh, in general is training facilities, because I'm fairly confident that there are clubs around this league that are miles ahead of what the Red Stars can provide, and um, I would rather them focus on the development of their players and their health and their safety and their training before getting billions of dollars from taxpayers to build a stadium. So I'll I'll leave it there.
Yeah, I'm done with my comments too. I think if I kept going, I would just turn red and all that. But yeah.
The Red Stars had media day last week, which is pretty cool to see. All the players popping on those jerseys that we were just talking about. Nope, we weren't just talking about them, were we?
We'll talk about later in
We'll
a
talk about
future
later.
episode.
That we were talking about in a different episode.
Hmm.
And it was cool to just see the players get all done up like they do every year, get all the jerseys in, and then get their pictures, even without the jerseys, just in really nice, stylish clothes. And they were like filming those gifs that I'm really excited about. I always like those. Caught a couple of the rookies with numbers that were given to them, so that was interesting. Um, every player that was on the 30 player or 31 player roster was there, apart from the ones who are obviously on international duty. But it was just cool to see media day, hear from a couple of the players. You can see a lot of what was said by some of the players and the new GM, either on Joe Chatz's stuff on Tap Sports, or you can go to Galpal Sports. They have some stuff on a media day too. That was pretty sweet.
Maybe one
But
day we'll go to that.
maybe one day I'll
Maybe
get it.
one day.
We'll get invited. Maybe one day. Uh, but I just wanted to mention at the end of this episode, real quick, that the last week, Red Stars Report celebrated its 2 year anniversary. I I started this as a Twitter page to kind of just chat with people in the community, and now it's grown into a podcast that has seen Grant join the team, multiple social media platforms, a Discord community with over 160 members. It's also an ever growing leader in bringing the latest info on the club to this community, which I think has been needed for a while. Um, and I'm glad that we can kind of provide that. I really wanted to thank all of you for being a part of our community, and I can't wait for more years of serving, I guess, the community with the info and the commentary that we bring each and every week and every day across all of our platforms.
This is where you put
That's where
confetti
I
on
put
the
the
screen.
confetti.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I should have
And
got like one of those confetti poppers or something.
you do
I
that.
would have had a vacuum after this episode. I would. I don't have any though.
Yeah,
So we'll pretend that
we'll
I
just
did it.
It's gonna be one of those situations again where we'll just see if I do it in posts.
You do more editing than I ever did, honestly, like
I like the craft. I
I
like the
don't.
content. That's fine. You like
I
talking,
can't edit
and that's what you're here for.
my rants.
Your
You're here
rants.
for my rants and my
Grants
rants only.
Grants rants.
Rants, rants.
Well, isn't that just brilliant?
Oh my goodness.
New segment. Rants.
No. That
That
would be its own episode.
would be its own episode. Here's Grant's rants for the last year. Week. Day.
Day.
All right.
Oh my
All
god.
right. With
You
that,
make me seem so bad. It's not horrible.
no,
It's not
no,
horrible.
no, no,
Every
it's
so
not.
often.
No. But with that,
Every episode.
we'll wrap things up for this week. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you find your podcasts. Watch the podcast on Red Stars Report's YouTube page if you want to see our lovely faces and see our reactions and see anything that I put up in the edit
Like
that you
confetti.
that you can't see, like the confetti that is probably gone by now. Subscribe wherever you watch and listen, and turn on our notifications to see when our new episodes go up and if any other content is being released on those platforms. Make sure you're following us at Red Stars Report on social media to keep up with the latest news between the episodes. Don't forget to join our Discord with the link in the description. And we're going to have a supplemental episode that we recorded today as well about the new jerseys. So that'll be fun. You can watch us react to both the Red Stars and the rest of the league's kits and watch Grant go on more rants. The next
And
time you
say
see us,
expletives.
we'll be previewing the opening match of the season, which is crazy.
Crazy.
Sadly, we may not see that 26 player roster before we record, but hopefully we kind of see some news on signings from unsigned players before then. But with that, we'll see you next week for more Red Stars Report.